Hello, welcome to the Britpart Workshop. My name's Danny Hopkins and I'm here in Shropshire with Paul Myers, Britpart's MD. Paul, when you are testing stuff that's going to be put on sale, new kit, you really put it through the mill, don't you? Test it to destruction. Why do you do that?
Okay, really there's two elements that we're looking for, reliability, but also safety factors. So we're looking at on a safety critical item like a fuel system or steering system or braking system, but it's going to maintain the original specification of the vehicle and be as safe, if not safer, than when it was made. Of
course, you must do that because if stuff goes wrong, it doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the case in point here, Paul, is something from the fuel system. Tell us what vehicle is this from and what does it do?
Sure, this is from a Discovery or a Defender fitted with a Td5 engine, diesel engine. Very popular choice on the engine, but this is one of the known Achilles heels of the engine, in that if the fuel pressure regulator leaks, we can literally pump the contents of the fuel tank out at high pressure.
Goodness me, so where does it usually fail?
This is a fuel pressure regulator, which limits the amount of fuel going into the engine. If this fails, we will get a leak from here, and the leak can either be a small leak, which will be a dribble, or it can be a major leak, in which case it will just pump out the fuel tank contents.
Goodness me, right, okay. So how do you know if this is happening? I suppose you can tell with your nose, can't you?
You can smell it, and you will find a pool of diesel where you've parked.
Right, so it's really safety critical.
Sure.
Okay, in that case, let's go over to the workshop, meet up with Martin and Steve to see them fit this piece of kit to the vehicle.
Right, so far we've just removed the top of the engine cover, which is held on with the three 13mm headed screws, and the next job is to remove the engine lifting bracket from the back of the cylinder head. Getting this out of the way just makes the job a lot easier. It's a lot easier to get to the connections and to see the fuel pressure regulator itself. When that's been removed, use a small screwdriver to depress the metal tang on the clip that holds the fuel temperature sensor in place and remove the connector from there. And from that moment, you can then release the quick release connector on the fuel in pipe, which goes onto the front of the pressure regulator here. You will probably lose a little bit of diesel out of that, so make sure you've got a tray underneath the vehicle ready to catch any spillage. From there, this pipe here connects onto the fuel cooler. This is the diesel return pipe. That has a quick release collet connector on the end there. Sometimes it's necessary just to unbolt the fuel cooler from the side of the engine to access that, because it can be a bit tricky. Once you've got that off, to reduce spillage and to just make the unit a little bit more compact, you can then take this and clip it onto the fuel in barb like so. That just means it won't lash diesel everywhere, and it just brings the thing, makes it a little bit smaller and easier to get out of the engine bay. You'll notice this pipe is still in place on our engine. That's because this very rarely gives problems. This connects onto the front of the cylinder head on later models, later Td5s, but because they never tend to leak and they're really fiddly to change, you can just loosen this 14mm union on the front here, unscrew the pipe from the side of the body of the pressure regulator, and that pipe will just sit in place along the side of the engine, allowing you to undo the three 10mm screws and remove the old regulator from the side of the cylinder head. Once you've got the old one off, the next step is to clean up the mating face on the side of the cylinder head before fitting the new unit. And to do that, you need to have all the bolts in place and the gasket, and obviously it's quite a confined space, so it's quite fiddly. So here's Fuzz with the top tip on how to achieve that.
Now, some jobs are an absolute swine to do in situ. Now, this might look like an easy component to fit, fuel pressure regulator, but you've got 3 bolts. 1, 2, and 3. And you've got a gasket, which goes on, oh, see, I'm already losing stuff. Got a gasket that goes on like so. Now, if I want to fit this assembly to the engine without the bolts falling out or without the gasket falling off while I'm trying to start these hard to get to bolts, this little rubber band is my friend. So what I do is I place it around the bolts like so with the gasket already on. That leaves me with both hands then to place the assembly in and start each of the bolts, remembering to start every one of them before getting a little hook in, or your fingernails if you've got any, I haven't, and just snap the band off. Then you can just tighten them up. Job done.
So the new fuel pressure regulator is all fitted up and ready to go. The last job is to bleed the fuel system, which is really easy on a Td5. You just have to turn the ignition on and pump the throttle pedal 5 times, and that will bleed itself. Engine light symbol will flash on the dashboard, and then it will go off when it's finished. So for more helpful tips on how to work on your Land Rover, check out the rest of the Britpart Workshop videos.